Hello everyone, I'm Steve Saylor with the Money Free Party, and I think we better take a few minutes to review the history of the money changers in America because we never got the straight story in school. Why? Because our history books were written by the bankers, the money changers, and we're not even teaching that much history in school anymore because it's not good for the bankers to let the public know what happened in the past. But let me try to explain. Going back to the Revolution, the revolt against King George and taxation without representation, why did George need this tax money? Because England was in debt to the bankers from the wars they'd been fighting, in debt to the Bank of England, owned by the money changers, not England, just like our Federal Reserve. So he turned to the American colonies to get the money to pay off the bankers. Around this time, Benjamin Franklin was back in Europe, and people wanted to know about this newfound prosperity in the colonies. And he said, it's simple. In the colonies, we issue our own money. It's called colonial scrip. We issue it in proper proportion to the demands of trade and industry, and we have no interest to pay to anyone. Well, when the king and the bankers heard this, they immediately passed a law that made it illegal for the colonies to make their own money and said all taxes must be paid in gold and silver. Later, Ben Franklin would say in 1 year, the conditions were so reversed that the era of prosperity ended and a depression set in to such an extent that the streets of the colonies were filled with unemployed. Time out. If you don't understand what these central bankers do, well, first, they bribe some corrupt politicians to let them make that country's money and loan it back to that country and their people. On top of that, they create that money by just typing some numbers into a computer. On top of that, they want you to pay them back with your real money you worked for. On top of that, they want you to pay them back with interest for just typing some numbers. On top of that, the interest money is never created and put into the money supply, so it doesn't exist. There's not enough money out there, so we're forced to fight each other for what's left. You understand now? Great. Back to the story. So in the words of Benjamin Franklin, words we never heard, the refusal of King George to allow the colonies to operate an honest money system that freed the ordinary man from the clutches of the manipulators was probably the prime cause of the revolution. And that's what we should have been reading in our history books. Well, the American Revolution went on from 1775 to 83, and now we're in debt to the bankers, so we allowed some money changers to set up the Bank of North America, which existed for 4 years before we got rid of them and their fictional debt, and we were free for 6 years. That's how long it took before Alexander Hamilton, that bastard, acting as the banking agents for the Rothschilds, helped set up the first bank of the United States, or as it should have been called, the first bank of the Rothschilds. They were given a 20-year charter which lasted from 1791 to 1811, when we said, enough, get out of here, you rats, we're not renewing your charter. And they said, oh, you'd better renew it, or we'll make big trouble. Presto, the War of 1812. Well, we won it in 3 years because England was worn down from all their wars. But just a year later, in 1816, the traitors in Congress let the Rothschilds right back in with the Second Bank of America, the same 20-year charter. Second verse, same as the first. Well, in 1826, the people elected Andrew Jackson to get rid of the money changers. He was fighting many members of Congress who had been bought off by the Rothschilds, so it was a struggle. Jackson said, you den of thieves, you vipers, I will rout you out. And when their charter expired in 1836, he did that. Jackson paid off the debt. He was the last president to do so. They tried to assassinate him, but the gun misfired twice, and he survived. Lincoln would not be so lucky in the 1860s. The money changers encouraged the division of the country in the Civil War. A country divided is much easier to control than one united, and the bankers fund both sides of the wars. Lincoln said, "I have two great enemies, the Southern Army ahead of me and the bankers behind, and it's the one behind me I fear the most." He started making our own currency, the greenback dollar, no interest attached. Well, the bankers found a patsy, and boom, he was gone along with the interest-free money. In the 1880s, the American people elected James Garfield president, who understood the bankers' scam and said, "When you realize that the entire system is very easily controlled by a few powerful men at the top, you will not have to be told how periods of inflation and depression originate." A few weeks after saying that, he was assassinated, or he died of mysterious causes, probably poisoning. In the 1890s, a banker's memo was discovered that said, "On September 1st, 1894, we will not renew our loans under any consideration. We will demand our money or we will foreclose. We can take 2/3 of the farms west of the Mississippi and thousands of them east of the Mississippi as well." And you may know the rest, how in 1913, after their secret meeting, the Rothschilds' agents set up the Federal Reserve Act, got it passed 2 days before Christmas when most of Congress was gone for the holidays. A 100-year charter, which was then made perpetual a decade later, and they've been sucking the wealth out of the people of this country ever since. Oh yeah, 1913 was also when they created the Internal Revenue Service, their collection agency, which is how the bankers steal their interest money from the American people. In 1929, they engineered the Great Depression. Oh yes, it was all planned. They took their money out of the stock market just days before they crashed it, then bought up all the assets for pennies on the dollar. President Kennedy in the 1960s said, "We've had enough of these secret societies controlling us," and he signed an executive order that allowed the United States to print its own money and bypass the Federal Reserve. And you know what happened? They got a patsy and boom, and the printing of the United States notes was immediately shut down. But hey, there's a happy ending coming soon. The bankers are being made obsolete by technology. Things like blockchain are cutting out the middlemen. We can make our own currency with no interest, and then when we start producing things in abundance, with the help of automation, we can make them free. We can remove the price tag. That's where we're going, so let's keep moving along. Visit the Money Free Party USA website and sign up in your state. And think about being a candidate to help educate the people who are still in the dark. We're reaching a tipping point. We're almost there. And then we can write our real history books and finally tell the truth about the money changers.